Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, YouTube. I'm still trying to figure out my whole setup here, but I just knocked my cable. Still trying to figure out my whole setup here. But while I'm doing that, I figure, it's not gonna hurt me to just make videos even if everything's not perfect. I don't need to wait until everything, until I get the polish and everything to create these videos again. Um, and I had something I wanted to talk about, and that's a term I ran across in the real estate world, which is called highest and best use. Now, what it's for is if you have a parcel of land, if you have some property, you could build anything you want on it. You could, even as long as it's zoned right, you can put whatever you want on it. But let's just say you have struggling to think of an example now that I turned the camera on. Let's say you have an airport, and near it or pretty close to it, you have an empty plot of land, and you're wondering, okay, what should I build here? And you're like, oh, I could make a supermarket here, or I could make a hotel. And for the instance of, I'm trying to see if this made sense here. This probably doesn't make any sense, but I'm going to just go with it anyway. For building, a hotel next to an airport, if there's no other hotels around, that would most likely be the highest and best use of that piece of land because people are going to be flying in and they're going to need somewhere to stay. You could build a supermarket there, but generally the better idea would be to put the hotel there. And just the opposite way, if you had, an empty building in the middle of town, like right in the center of everything in town, and it's just, a big empty building, you could think, oh, I could build I could build a martial arts dojo right here. You could have martial arts training right there in the center of town. While yes, you could do that, the price of that land is probably going to be extremely high, and you wouldn't really need your martial arts dojo, if that's what they're called. I don't know if it would be called a dojo or training, whatever. If you put that in the middle of town, you would almost be wasting the potential of that building. When if there you were to put a supermarket, that would get the most use out of that property. You'd probably get the most amount of customers because if it's right in the middle of town, everyone's going to be going there. And I believe that terminology, the highest and best use, should be applied to our lives as well. Where, drawing from a verse, it's 1 Corinthians 10:23. It says, let me get to it here. Says, all things are lawful for me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but all things edify not. And that's in the King James Version. In the Amplified, it says, all things are legitimate and permissible, and we are free to do anything we please. But not all things are helpful, expedient, profitable, and wholesome. All things are legitimate, but not all things are constructive to character and edifying the spiritual life. God gives us free will to choose what we want to do with our lives. We can choose to do anything, and God doesn't restrict it. You could be a car salesman. You could become a music teacher. You could do anything you want. There's no God doesn't say that this is the only way to live your life is to become a missionary and fly overseas. It's like God needs his people spread throughout everything. It's the idea of being a body of Christ. Of everyone can't be the same body part. Or else the whole body's going to be useless. People have to be spread in different fields. The message of Jesus Christ has to reach every facet of reality, every single job, every single place, every location. Whatever job you're at, you can spread Christ there. You can spread the message of the gospel. But I think what we need to take into account is the idea of highest and best use. Sure, you could do that with your life. You could do whatever you want. But is that the best you could do? Is that the most that God would want you to do with your life? Is that what you believe God is actually telling you to do? And if that's so, go for it. But I think it's something that we should spend a lot of time in prayer about, and we should spend a lot of time thinking, what is the best use for my life? What is the highest and best use? And I'm not saying you can't watch TV. I'm not saying you can't play video games. I'm not saying you can't, have a game night with friends and, enjoy yourself. But if you're doing that too often, if you kind of neglect what's possible for your life, I mean, every one of us is given our life. We're given endless possibilities by God, and I feel that too often we can waste them easily because we get caught up in the pleasures that Satan gives us in this world. We get caught up in pleasures that, I guess not that Satan gives us, like God is the only one that can give us pleasures. Satan can just manipulate those pleasures that are given by God to draw us away from God. But I think that if we get caught up too much in our own wants, we can miss the highest and best use for our life if we're not always looking to God. If we're not always praying about what we should be doing, I think we can miss the best use for our lives. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say on it. Just, you know, before you do something, consider, while it may be good, it may not be the best. And a way I heard it put is that good is the enemy of great, where sometimes something good can be hiding something even better. So with that, I'm going to leave you. And hopefully next time I'll have a better setup going. So Lord willingly, I'll see you all later.